Hey guys! So it's Mental Health Week, and I'm gonna be making this video to kind of tell you guys my story and how I've been doing to this day. Um, so for those of you who know me or are on friends with me on social media, know that I do have a mental illness, or I have a couple. I suffer from both depression and anxiety. I suffer from major depression and anxiety. Um, and I I just kind of want to tell my my story. Okay, so the start of my mental health journey, I was about 13 years old. And but before I tell you guys the start of my mental health journey, I'm just gonna tell you guys kind of like a little background. Um, so my dad died when I was 2 months old, so I never really grew up with the dad. Um, so my mom was left a single mother, so we moved in with his best friends, which became my godparents and their son. So we lived with a total of 5 people, including me. And then over the course of maybe 10 years, that kind of exploded to like a small house full of 9 people. Um, my godbrother got married, had a couple children, so the house was really crowded. Let's just say that. So that's my background story. I call my godbrother my brother because I grew up with him. We lived in that with that family for like a good 16 years. Okay. So when I was a kid, I kind of matured a little bit earlier than everybody else. I started developing around 10, 11 years old. Um, and like just like everybody else, I had an identity crisis. Like in elementary school, I would be dressed up as a tomboy all the time. I never wore dresses. Like it was always cargo shorts and like a polos or like something like that, like something like boyish. I would always play with cars. And then 7th grade, I wore like baggy clothes. And then 8th grade, I had this like really girly phase where I would wear like shimmery eyeshadow, lip gloss, and like pink and like skirts and it was just like a horrible. That was like the horrible phase. But yeah, I was trying to figure out who I was, honestly. But I think when I was in that really girly phase, like things started that's when things started changing at home. When I was 13, going on to 14, um, my I my god brother kind of started noticing me a little bit. He, you know, like before I get into the story, I just wanted to tell everybody that when you guys have kids, make sure no matter how conservative you are, no matter what religion, despite all that, it's really important to tell your kids what is not okay when somebody is touching you, and to take proper uh you have to tell somebody when somebody is not touching you, when somebody is touching you inappropriately. Because I never had that conversation with my parents. I never had that conversation with my godparents. I never had that conversation with anybody. So because of that, I didn't realize what was happening until maybe like a year down the road. When I was about 15, or like 14, 15 years old, that's when I started realizing that things were not okay. It was, like he started touching me inappropriately. It started out small, and then it just kind of like built up from there. And then when it was starting to build up, I was like, this isn't okay. And so I had to tell. I was too scared to tell my parents because he told me not to tell anybody. So I told my boyfriend at the time what was going on, and then I told my best friend at the time what was going on. And, you know, like, they both told me that, like, oh, no, that's, like, definitely not okay. Like, you have to tell your mom. Like, you have to tell everybody. And I didn't really talk to my best friend about it a lot, but I talked to my boyfriend about it a lot. And he kind of helped me avoid most of the interactions between me and my brother. You know, like, I was always alone with my brother because everybody was working. Either that or, like, my godparents were downstairs in the basement, and he was always in the living room, and I was always upstairs in the bedroom. So we lived in a 3-story house. But yeah, basically nobody knew what was going on in my house, and it's been going on for like a good 2 years. But ever since I told my boyfriend, he would, like, whenever I would call him up and say, like, hey, I'm alone, like, can you like, take me out somewhere? And he's like, okay. So we would literally walk around the block until my mom came home, like, 3 hours later. Just so, like, you know, he wouldn't approach me and stuff like that. So I really did appreciate that. Like, he's actually the one that helped me out the most and, like, kind of changed my life a little bit. Like, you know, like, you know, like, I never knew that he was the one that, like, I would think, for me to be where I am right now, you know? So, anyway, one day, when we were, like, walking around the block, he's like, we really have to tell my mom. I'm like, okay, we'll tell my mom. And so, I will never, ever, ever forget this day. Some of it was a blur, but I remember most of it. We were sitting on the couch, and he wasn't home at the time. Only my mom was. So we were sitting on the couch in the living room, and then, you know, he called my mom down, and he's just like, we have to tell you something. She's like, okay. And she was, like, kind of nervous, of course. And then, so he basically, I forgot exactly what he said, because I was out of it at the time. He basically told her that, like, what was going on, and she started crying, and then she like came over to the other couch and hugged me and, like, stuff like that, you know. And I had a panic. I had my very first panic attack when that happened, because literally, like, 5 minutes after we told her, my godparents came home. And so I had to tell them. And I remember when my boyfriend helped me up, like, off the couch, and then I just fell because I didn't have the strength to walk. I couldn't get up. I couldn't breathe. I was hysterically crying. It was just, I never experienced that in my life. And I was just so scared. I was so anxious because I knew from that point on that this family wouldn't be the same. So I remember my boyfriend went out with my godfather out in the backyard to talk about what he did, what's going on. And then so I talked with my godmother, so did my mom. And then basically, my godparents didn't think it was a big deal at all. They were defending him. And so I got pissed. And then ever since then, I kind of, like, lost all respect to the family that I grew up with. And it wasn't fair. Like, and then I remember when he came home, and my godparents were in the basement. My mom went to his room and literally confronted him, and she was like, if you ever touch my daughter ever again, I will call the police on you. And he didn't say a word, and she just left and then slammed our bedroom door and locked it. I remember that. And then I guess that's when I realized that my mom always had my back when it came to stuff like this. And, you know, it was just a constant battle in the family from that moment on. Like, but that was when my anxiety started. My depression started when sorry guys. Sorry, snot was coming out of my nose, so yeah, so my boyfriend broke up with me, and that's when I started feeling depressed. Because, you know, like, he was the one that I ran to whenever I needed help and, like, all that. He was the one that helped me the most with everything, so I was relying on him a lot. And so when he left, I was like, shit, like, who am I gonna talk to now, you know? So that was a pretty big deal because that was my very first heartbreak. And you know, I didn't really tell anybody what was going on at home. The only people that knew were my boyfriend and my best friend at the time. And when I came to school, somebody told the social worker at my school, and I actually saw her at work the other day, so that was pretty cool. Yeah, somebody told the social worker at work, and she's like, we really have to do something about this because this isn't healthy for you, you know, like, so I got checked into treatment that same day. I was out of school for a couple months so I could focus on myself. And, you know, like, we got the police involved, we got the court involved with the case at home. And I remember, like, this is another day that I remember fairly well. That same day that, like, it was, like, my first day at therapy or whatever, and, or at inpatient, I'm sorry. And I guess they informed the family that, like, you know, like, stuff was gonna be going on, like, DCFS was gonna get involved and stuff like that. I remember my godparents came to my room with my mom inside, and they got really pissed off at me. And they're just like, why did you tell people? Like, you didn't have to tell your social worker, you didn't have to tell the police, this isn't a big deal, you're ruining the family, you're splitting up the family, and, like, all this victim blaming bullshit. And I just sat there quiet because, you know, I'm not gonna freaking explain myself as to why I decided to get help for being a damn victim that, you know, like, that your son decided to freaking violate the living shit out of me, you know? And he has 2 fucking children, you know? That was one of the reasons why I decided to come out with it, because if he's willing to do that to me after basically helping raise me for, like, a good 14 years, and, like, when I was in fucking diapers, like, what makes you think that he won't be able to do that to his like, his own children, you know? And that was like, he has a daughter. That was scary to me. Like, I don't want anybody to go through what I went through, you know? Like, that just kind of fucks you up in the head. And, you know, like, his parents were just, like, supporting him. They didn't care about me. They didn't care about what he did to me. He's okay, you know? So that's when things got really hostile within the family. Because of DCFS, he couldn't be in the house. He had to stay away from me. After court, at court, I had a panic attack because I haven't seen him in months, and I saw him, and it was just bad. And, you know, like, he couldn't be at least 200 feet away from me. He couldn't. He's a registered sex offender, so he couldn't be in any public spaces with children. He couldn't be alone with his children. He couldn't live near a public park or, like, a bus stop or a school or whatever. So, you know, I did get justice. He only got 2 days in jail, but that's okay. You know, it's like a lifetime of limitations. You know, he has to learn his mistakes, you know. But when I was 16, we sold our house, and then we split up. And then that was when I could finally say that I got better from there, because I wasn't exposed to hostile, abusive people, you know. and they weren't just abusive to me, they were just abusive to my mom too, I realized that they were abusive throughout the whole entire time we were living there towards her, and it was just a good environment to get out of. So that's what we did. So now it's just only me and my mom. And how I got through it, music is a big part of my life. You can kind of see the guitar in the background, even though I don't use it, but I'm learning. You can see the uke in the background. I'm on my piano right now. Um, music helps me take out the problems that are in my head and just kind of lifts them off for a little bit, and until I have to deal with them again. But I do the same thing. If something comes up, music. And it's helped me a lot. Therapy has helped me too. Listening to other people go through what I've been through. It's kind of like a great feeling that you're not alone. That other people are going through the same thing you're going through, so you could talk to them. So that was my first the initial development of my mental illness. But it's been under control until about a couple months ago.